Hello, everyone. A very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you out there. Welcome to this webinar from GMAT Wiz on understanding the scope and deriving the main point of a passage. At least 3 out of 4 of the passages that you face on your GMAT have questions based on, a primary purpose of the passage or main point of the passage or main idea of the passage. And I'm sure a lot of us struggle to understand the main point. And even if we do understand the main point, often we are not able to choose the correct answer. All right. So today we're going to discuss all of that, guys. I would love to hear back a warm hello from your end. I can see a lot of you are out there. So I would love to know who all are out there. In the meantime, I will also quickly introduce myself. I am Sunita. I am the verbal head at GMAT Wiz, and I'm also the lead course architect. I've got tons of experience dealing with students, mentoring them, tutoring them, uh, identifying their problems, and solving them. Of course, it helps to have the 99th percentile in the verbal section. So that's about me, guys. I want to hear a little bit about you guys. Let me see who all are there. Hi, Harsh. Nice to hear from you guys. Come on. The others, I can see you in numbers. I would love to know your names. That would help. It won't just be like me talking alone. So apart from Harsh, who all are there, guys? Please connect. Please reach out. In the meantime, I'm also going to set the agenda of the session. I'm sure you're eager to understand what we're going to do today. So the first thing that we are going to do is we will follow the involved and evolved reading method, which I discussed in the last webinar. So we will definitely learn how to read in the most effective manner right from the beginning so that you can summarize every paragraph correctly. Why? Because summarization of a paragraph is important to put together the summaries of the paragraphs to reach the main point. So we're going to cover that journey. We're going to see how to cover that journey. And once we've covered that journey, how to address the primary purpose questions. And of course, we're going to look at 700 plus level questions because that's the place where we suffer most. Okay, I've got lovely lots of hellos. Thank you so much, all of you guys. Thank you, Priyanka, Harsh, Shashi, Jishnu, Rupal. Nice to see you, Rupal, here. So, how to pronounce this? Hassan, I'm going to say Akib. Thank you so much, all of you. And I can see some of you are from outside of India. So, again, once again, a very good day to all of you. A very warm welcome, guys. So, let's get started without more ado. All right. I'm not going to, let's get to the main idea, the main crux of the whole thing. All right. So, remember, the agenda is to learn how to read in such a manner from sentence 1 so that you are able to summarize that 3 sentence paragraph properly, and then you're able to summarize the summary of the 3 paragraphs to reach the main point, or 2 paragraphs or 1 paragraph, as the case may be. Okay, so let's get started, guys. Now, just before we move on to the passage, which I'm going to bring up shortly, just a quick recap about what is the main point. I'm sure all of you know about it. However, I'm just going to clarify this in just the next 1 minute. It's the central idea of the passage. It's the reason why the author has written the passage. Okay, it is something that the author is trying to do in that passage, and therefore, what the author does, how the author portrays this, is what we are going to discuss today. One of the main things that you need to understand about the correct answer. Okay, the correct answer has some characteristics. So if you're looking for the correct answer choice, remember these 3 things. It should be, of course, a single sentence summary of the intention of the entire passage. Okay, intention of the entire passage, not the intention of any one particular paragraph or one particular example or one particular idea. So it should be covering the entire passage and not just be talking about any small idea, any limited scope. Okay, and of course it should be precise. So you should not choose an option which goes into too many details, because identifying the details is not really the purpose. All right, so these are the 3 main characteristics of the main point correct answer choice. And next, we'll quickly look at, therefore, how to derive this main point. And I'm going to demonstrate this process to you in a moment. But broadly speaking, the motive of the passage is to arrive at the main point, right? So, if you were the author, how would you write out the passage? How would you develop the plot so that you could reach that main point? So probably you want to discuss some two, three, four ideas about the main point. Okay, the main, different aspects of the main idea. So you would kind of maybe divide your passage into different paragraphs so that each paragraph covers one or more ideas or aspects of the overall idea. Therefore, if we are getting the paragraph summaries, then each para will be converging into the main idea. So what you do is you map the passage, you make the summaries for every para, you put together those para summaries, and you arrive at the main idea. So all of this I'm actually going to do and show you. And there's one very important thing that I'm also going to discuss with you guys. I'm sure you come across these words like, you know, trace, evaluate, outline, challenge, assess, discuss, describe, stuff like this. Words like these on these main point questions. We're also going to talk about that. All right. Uh, just let me take a quick peek at anybody else. Okay, I can see all of you are like waiting, and I'm sorry, guys, I've been rambling. So we are going to follow the involved and evolved reading. This is GMAT Viz's special methodology. I call it special because it is special. It's not something that is out of the box, but it is definitely something that hardly anybody really does. Okay, here's the passage for you guys. Just that one question for you. All right. And I want you to hold off from putting in the answers on the chat. I'll tell you when to put in. Okay, so if you solve the question, just keep it to yourselves. Um, how much time do you think I should give you guys to solve this question? Quickly, one question only. Come on, guys, just tell me quickly. How much time do you think I should give you for that one question? So, how much time should you be given to read the passage properly and answer that one question? See, I'm giving the control in your hands. Come on. I'm waiting for the suggestions from your end. Come on, Jishnu, Rupal, Hassan, Akib, uh, Shashi, Priyanka, Harsh. Those are some of the names I've got. Of course, I've got a lot more others. But so Akib says 3 minutes, Harsh says 3 minutes. Let me see. Otherwise, I'm going to put it off as 3 minutes, guys. If you want more time, ask for it. I'm going to go on an average kind of thing. Any other suggestions from your end, guys? Yes? Okay. I don't see any more suggestions coming up. Come on, it's a 2 paragraph thing with one question. Okay. So no more suggestions. Then 3 minutes it is, and your time starts now. I'm going to mute myself in the meantime. Okay, Priyanka, 3 minutes is good. So fine. There you go. I'm going to mute myself. Please do not put in your answers till I ask you to do that. Okay. Thank you. 30 seconds left, guys. I'll tell you when to put in the answers, not yet. All right, guys. 3 minutes as promised up. You can start putting in your answers. Let's see. Again, just to remind you that the purpose of this session is not just to solve a question. It is to see that the process that should be followed to solve a main point question. What is that process? So that every time you get a main point question, you are able to solve it correctly. And do understand, often your understanding of the main idea is important in order to solve the other questions as well. Okay, sometimes we think that, okay, main idea, I haven't understood the main idea, big deal, I have at least understood the rest of it. But you will see that sometimes if you have understood the main idea correctly, then you are also able to understand or answer correctly other questions related to the main idea. Okay, so let me read out the answer choices I have. Shashi says it's B, Abhirup says C, Giridhar says B, Harsh B, Gagan says D. So it's like between B, C, and D. Jishnu, that 1.5 minute was you need it or it took you that much time? Okay, cool. So B, C, B, B, D, and guys, I would love to have some more answers. So N short says it should be D. So I've got a race between B and D mostly. And then there's a small C thrown in between as well. Do I have any more bidders for D, B, or C, guys? Come on. So many of you out there, guys, share your scores. It's just with me. If you don't want, I won't call out your names. But at least share with me. Only I can see your answer. Nobody else can see that. Thank you, Jishnu. So I've got some more contenders. Thank you, Akanksha. Wonderful. So the race is still between B, C, and D only. I mean, between is the wrong word, among B, C, and D. Let's get started and see what is the correct answer. Okay, before that, guys, how many of y'all were confused with these, words here? How many of y'all were confused with the words, examine, establish? I'm sure you were not confused with present, analyze, evaluate. Did these words throw you off? Answer a yes. Okay, thank you, Rupal. Answer a yes if those words threw you off. Not necessarily in this question. Are you usually confused by such words on the main idea answers? Yes, guys? Let me have some answers from you. Are you? And if you are confused, what do you do then? How do you resolve that confusion? So Harsh does not face any such confusion. How about the others? Do you face that confusion when you see these kind of words, evaluate and say analyze, or you find the word, there's a trace word and outline and qualify? Shashi says she sometimes faces that. I'm sure you face that challenge when you find some two options very close, right? Okay, great, guys. So what I'm going to discuss next with you before I discuss this particular, question is very simple. I'm going to show you a glimpse of how we help students understand the difference between these different words on an answer choice dealing with main idea questions. So you have these words which are similar, but they are different at the same time. They do have a distinguishable meaning, right? I mean, if you look at some of the answer choices that I've taken from actual OG questions, you have words like describe the historical origin, analyze, argue, establish, and so on and so forth. So these are what we refer to by using the word confusing words. Okay, we call some of them confusing words. And the confusion really isn't between, all the words. We have kind of taken up some very commonly used words in main point question, in purpose questions, in function questions. And these are the groupings we've done. So in group one, you find words like describe, explain, discuss, present. Group 2, you have words like evaluate, assess, examine, analyze. Group 3 has challenge, question, argue, contest, criticize, and group 4 has establish and prove. Now, the confusion is rarely between words from the same group. I mean, I'm sure you will never be confused between describe and explain. You will never be confused between challenge and question something. Okay, you clearly know what it means. You will never be confused between establish and prove. But you might find yourself challenged sometimes between discuss and evaluate, or evaluate and challenge, or discuss and establish. Right? Right? So, the factor, what we've done in the course is we have kind of identified the differentiating factors between these different groups. Say for example, what is different between describe, describe of group 1 and analyze of group 2, or discuss of group 1 and assess of group 2. Okay, or what is the difference between evaluate of group 2 and let's say argue of group 3. All right. So the differentiating factor for each of these groups is identified through a lot of research done on actual questions and answer choices. Okay. So words like describe, explain, discuss, present are used when we are not really, when the author is not really trying to put forward his own agreement or disagreement on anything. The author is just going in for providing you with details and explanations behind something. The motive is merely to explain and not provide a conclusion of his or her own. On the other hand, if you look at group 2 words, anytime the author is evaluating, assessing, examining, scrutinizing, analyzing anything, then the author is bound to try to reach his or her own conclusion as the ending after evaluating the pros and cons. I mean, if you're evaluating something, you're basically looking at the strength or weakness of that thing, right? That's group 2. Whenever the author is challenging or questioning, then the author is trying to display his doubt or disagreement regarding something. So doubt and disagreement is also a conclusion, but then it is not a resolution. It's not where the author is like drawing a conclusion. The author is saying whatever conclusion is drawn by somebody else, that's not correct. And of course, the purpose of establishing and proving, it's a very strong word. It simply means that the author is trying to remove the doubts. So very minor differentiating factors, guys. And you can try out the trial version of our course to, kind of take another sneak peek into the same thing. Jishnu, okay, that was your timing. So I'm just going to quickly share with you guys the link to the free trial version of the course, guys. Just give me a moment. That's the link to the free trial version of the course, guys. Okay. And you can take a sneak peek into what else we offer, or even if you want to understand about the confusion. Anyways, I'm not going to take up too much of your time. Let's get started with understanding how to reach that main point. Again, guys, have patience. Watch me as I read sentences and move towards deriving the main point. Okay, I want you to be very, very, very watchful. Then only you will get this correct. All right, so I'm just going to stop sharing that. By the way, guys, before I move on to the explanation, let me quickly announce we have launched a subscription of a duration of 2 months. For those of you who are thinking to prepare for round 3 or even round 1 of next year, all right, there is this 2 months and 4 months subscription that we've launched. The 2 months comes for $129, and that's the best deal you can get, because in that $129 you have a 2 month access to the entire verbal course, the entire quant course, which includes thousands of practice questions as well, and 10 mocks. So I don't think the deal gets any better than this. $129 for the entire thing for a 2 month thing. You can go and check it out on the platform itself. I've given you the link to the free trial version. You can also check it out there. It will be there. Okay. So having said that, let me quickly set about. So here's the first paragraph. And just to show you quickly, if you see, there is this one sentence here. Okay. Then you have a sentence starting from here till, and I've deliberately chosen this passage to begin with. I could have chosen a very, very difficult one. The passage after this is a difficult one. but this one I've kept it simple so that I can show you the technique. Okay. And then you have one sentence beginning from here, lasting till here. Just a 3-sentence paragraph. Now I'm going to show you how I am going to kind of get the crux of each of these sentences and get the crux of the entire paragraph. All right. So let me do that for you straight away. So I'm going to read the first sentence. Okay, and I'm going to follow the involved and evolved reading method. If you want to know more about it, please search the YouTube for involved and evolved reading GMAT quiz and you'll get it. For now, let's focus on arriving at the main point. So I read the first sentence, the fields of antebellum political history and women's history. So we are basically talking about the political history of a certain period, that's pre-Civil War, and the women's history of that particular period. And these two fields use different sources and focus separately on certain issues. Now, why I read this so slowly? Because if I don't understand what's going on in the first sentence, I'm not going to understand what's going to happen in the second. And if I don't understand what's happening in the first and second, I won't understand what's happening in the third. For easier passages, maybe this doesn't strike you as very important. But see, in the exam, you won't know what is easy and you won't know what is difficult. So you have to follow the same process repetitively. All right. So in now, if you're making notes on paper, you write down this. If you're making notes mentally, it's fine. In fact, I have written out some more words than you should write down so that you can understand when you're going through this webinar. But basically, I would have just said that, okay, sources and focus, PH and W are different. I would use shorthand. Okay, if I were writing down the notes. And note making is an art, guys. If you write stuff that is not important, then it will be pointless. Okay, so the basic idea of the first sentence, the crux of the first sentence is we're talking about two fields being different in their source and the focus. Great. When I read the second sentence, political historians. Now, I just take a brief second, 1/10 of a second to think, okay, now the author is segregating the two fields and is going to discuss probably one by one. I'm kind of preempting. Political historians. Okay, and then we have a modifier here. Examining. All right. So we are talking about these historians. They are examining. What are they examining? And because the word sources was written here, my mind automatically goes to the previous sentence and connects. Okay, so here the author is going to tell us what are the different sources, maybe. Okay, voting records, newspapers, politicians' writings. And when I'm reading this, in my mind, I'm clubbing them as a particular type of source, a very public type of source. So political historians source from these public docs, and political historians, this is my subject here. Time to use your sentence correction skills. Focus, verb here, on the emergence. Okay, so their focus is on what? Emergence of what? In the 1840s of a new American political nation. Achha, so they are political historians. They want to focus on politics, of course. Okay. And now, because there's an and, that's for me a transition here. And then there's a transition in since as well. Since is giving me a reason for something, and because it's part of the same sentence, then I know we are going to continue talking about political historians. But then I'm a little puzzled. Okay, so what does since women were neither voters nor politicians? Okay, so they're going to tell us because at that time women were not allowed to vote, they were not politicians, they received little discussion. Who received little discussion? Okay, these women probably. And discussion where? Since this is a sentence about political historians, so these women do not get much discussion in political history. Now, I sum that up. Political historians source public docs. They focus on politics. They don't focus on women. Okay, so that's my summary crux. So again, you don't have to write this bigger sentence. PH source public docs, focus on politics, but not on women. That's it. Only these few words. If you're writing, otherwise, if you're making mental note, which is how you should, only this much. Okay. The last sentence, likewise, I again have women's historians, and I'm right. The author is segregating field by field and trying to tell us probably what is different. Meanwhile, is a transition word. It tells us, okay, this is going to be something happening simultaneously. Have shown little interest. Little interest is equal to no interest in the subject of party politics. Okay. So They are different in terms of they are interested in politics. These people are not interested in politics. Instead, what are they interested in? Drawing on personal papers. Okay, so they focused on public documents. These people focus on personal papers. And then, if I really look at it, these are all examples of those personal papers. Not really very important. This is where I can speed up my writing. This is all about women's personal movements and moral reform activities and domesticities and female associations and stuff like that. So I just quickly jot down here, okay, women historians source personal docs, focus on women's personal movements, but not on politics. All right. Now, see, if this is the crux I've drawn from each of the statements, guys, can you tell me in can you answer me in the chat boxes, guys, what would be your one line summary? Forget about what you chose as the correct answer. A lot of you have got it wrong, obviously. I want you to post what you believe in your words would be the central idea of this paragraph. Only this paragraph. Come on. Go ahead, guys. I'll give you 30 seconds to type and post your para summaries. Go ahead. Again, why I want to do this exercise with you, because you often get questions about what is the function of this paragraph, what is the organization of this passage. So for that also you need to understand the para summaries. For understanding the main idea, you need to understand the para summaries. So please go ahead and answer me in the chat box. Yes, guys, waiting for your answers. Come on. As I said, only I can see it. And I'm going to read out without calling out your name. So don't be worried about, if you're conscious of that. I just want you guys to see, each of you to see whether you were correct in your understanding or whether you weren't. Sometimes we feel we have got the meaning right, but then we don't know, we don't have anyone to tell us where we are going wrong. And this is a good opportunity for you to understand and identify that. Okay, so I've got one answer here. Political and women historians used different sources and had different focuses. So that is the content of the passage. Yes, Akanksha, good. Sorry, I blurted out the name. Very good. I also want you to add to that what the paragraph is trying to do. Good, very good. That's the crux. Yes, guys, others, what is the paragraph trying to do? Waiting for your. I'm so sorry for that slip, Akanksha. But good, you've got it right. That's the crux. So that's the crux. But from that, what is your understanding? Anything else that you have understood? Come on, Jishnu, Harsh, Rupal, Shashi, Priyanka, Gagan, Abhiroop, Girdhar, Akib. Come on, guys. So I have a few more here. Since women were not involved in political matters, they were mostly excluded from political history. Good. That's a good way to see. So the difference here is this person is not just stating that the two fields were different. This person is also telling us that what is the author trying to do here? The author is trying to tell us that women were not involved in political matters, and that is why they were mostly excluded from political history. Okay. Then I've got another one. PH and WH have different sources, did not focus on each other. Okay, that's close. Then discuss sources and focus on antebellum political and women history. Okay, so I get it, guys. None of you are incorrect. All of you are correct. However, I want to show you something. And this could be a value add for all of you out there. This could be something that you might be missing out. So, most of you have answered that the entire passage is really about the difference between political history and women's history, and the differences between their sources and the focus. So, that is true. Now, I'll show you something, okay? See, we have it, okay, sources different, focus different, all right, but is there something similar as well? So they focus on politics, not women. They focus on women, not politics, which means I'm like asking myself, and this is where you can extend your thought process. What about anybody doing this? Nobody's doing this, right? Politics and women. Nobody's doing that, right? So not only I get to understand that um, the two fields of history focus on different things and talk about different things and their sources are different, I also get to infer that none of them are therefore talking about women and politics together. That is something which is missing in both cases. Okay, and that is the special edition, this part. So both political historians and women historians leave out one aspect of history while focusing exclusively on another. So this, all of you have said the same thing, that they focus on different things. But look at the way I have written it. I'm not saying you have to write it this way only. But the point is, they each of them is looking at one aspect and leaving out the other. This is something that if you are able to derive, you will do very well on all RC questions, guys. Okay? This part is, of course, my inference. Very little is actually written about women and politics. Yes, any comments here, guys? Anything you would like to ask? Yes, that's fine. That's also good. Focus on public sources and focus on apolitical sources, absolutely. So I want each of you to broaden your understanding in this manner. All right, what is the author trying to tell you? Okay, the explicit part is this is the difference. The implied part is this is the difference, but this is also something which is common. None of them are writing about women, is it? Women and politics, sorry. None of them are doing that. Great. So let me quickly, with that summary. So with this summary, we will move on to the, so when you finish reading the first para, you should always make the summary. I mean, you don't have to write all of this, but do write the one line understanding, the one line takeaway of the first paragraph. Do that, guys. You'll get the flow of idea very, very clearly. The next paragraph starts with however, which means this however has to be linked back to this. So I'm thinking, okay, so despite the fact that none of them wrote about women in politics, each of them had different areas of focus and source. Despite that, most historians, so now here the author is clubbing the ph, ph plus wh, and saying 50% of, at least 50% of both. Most historians have underestimated. Underestimate means drawn a low estimate, right? Drawn a low estimate of what? The extent is scope, and significance, that is importance of women's political allegiance. Now, what if I don't know the meaning of allegiance? I tell you this, guys, at GMAT Viz, we have a lesson on teaching you how to wait for the context to give you the meaning of a word. So right now you don't know, let's say, the meaning of political allegiance. Don't panic, don't worry, wait. I'll show you how. This line is whose, in whose words, who is saying majority of the historians have not drawn the correct estimate of the scope and importance of women's political something in the particular period. Since it is not attributed to anybody else, it is the author's words. Okay. So, however, indicates some contrast with the last idea. Author's opinion that majority of historians have downplayed, my bad here, downplayed women's role in politics in antebellum period. Okay. Now there's an example given here. Now, the moment you see such kind of examples inserted here and then, because there are questions on such examples, right there and then tell yourself, okay, the author is giving an example here. Why do you think the author is giving this example here? Well, the author wants to probably display how these historians have drawn a low estimate of the importance of women in politics in the antebellum period. Probably for that. And when we read on, we find that that is exactly what the author is trying to tell us. The author is saying in the presidential election campaigns, the Virginia Whig Party strove to win the allegiance of women. If you are a political party, if you are trying to win the allegiance of some, person, women or men, what are you trying to win? What are you trying to win, guys? Allegiance? At best, what are you trying to win? In one word? So this is how the context will provide you meaning for allegiance. Yes, guys. What do you think allegiance would mean if you did not know it earlier? If a party is trying to win the allegiance of women, men, children, anybody, what would allegiance mean? In very simple words. I don't need some fancy word or explanation here. Yes? Okay, they would be trying to win the votes, Shubham. Absolutely. And if you want to win the votes, you need support. Absolutely, Girdhar. Wonderful. So you see, this is one sample of how the context will give you clarity only if you're paying attention to the context. Thank you, Shashi. Absolutely. Allegiance in in fancy terms means loyalty, but honestly, votes and support will also do in this case. Thank you. Wonderful. So coming back to this, therefore, this example is telling us that women were actually given importance by these politicians. Women were invited to the rallies. Okay, and why were they invited? According to Whig propaganda, so Whig is this party, and propaganda, if I don't know the meaning, forget it. Remember, what is important is the deeper information rather than just the words. So according to Whig propaganda, by the way, propaganda means your agenda. Women who turned out at the party's rallies, these women gathered information, and that information helped these women to make party royal families. And I'm trying to digest this. Okay, so the women would come to the rally, the women would gather information, the women would carry that information to their family, to the dinner tables, and probably influence their own families to become loyal to that party. Okay, so gathered information reminded men of moral values that rose above party loyalty and conferred moral standing on the party. So these were the benefits of women coming to these political rallies. Okay, that means this example is showing that politicians and political parties did give women importance even though women were not politicians, even though women were not allowed to vote. Remember from the previous paragraph? So this long sentence till here, if you see from here till here, is basically, an example given to support author's opinion. What was the author's opinion? Historians have downplayed women's role in politics. And the example shows how women played a big role. So definitely it's supporting. Look, think about your critical reasoning argument, guys. It's nothing short of that. Okay. And the last sentence tells us how another party, Virginia Democrat, uh, uh, in response means by seeing the Virginia Whig Party inviting these women, they also started to invite women. And then invitation of women, inclusion of women in the rituals of party politics became commonplace. Okay. So the summary here again, see, although women played an important role, look at this, the choice of word. Although women played an important role, most historians have downplayed that role. That's the summary. Clear, guys? So far, no queries? How I derived? Uh, which inference are we talking about? Hi, Olivia. What are you trying to point out? Varktech. So, Jishnu, we can derive this inference on the basis of the second para. Which inference are we talking about? The one that is there right now? The whole point is you keep up the flow right from the beginning, Jishnu, all right? So that you don't lose your focus anywhere. Just keep your focus, and whatever words you don't know the meaning of, or you will get to know the meaning of those. So I guess that's what you meant, Jishnu. Okay. Now comes the important part, that how do we put together these two para summaries and arrive at the main point. I want you to follow this process more closely. Okay. All right. Let me quickly show you. Now notice that the two para summaries are going to converge into the main point. That means the overall intention of the two paras is going to be covered. So what is the intention of the first para? The major intention of the first para is to tell you that you know, these two left out one aspect and focused only on some other. All right. And the outcome was little written about women's political engagement. And here we are again saying the same thing. Women played an important role, but most historians downplay that role. So, very little written about women's political engagement. Most historians downplay the role of. So, clearly the focus of the main point is to identify that women were not given their due. Although women were participating, they were not given their due. So, when I write down the main point summary in my words, you know, I'm going to think, okay, we are talking about a particular period. Okay, different historians, I'm clubbing it as that, focused differently, okay, on women's political involvement. But by and large, so this part I'm taking from here, and this part, by and large, they have downplayed, I'm taking from here. Not necessary, I'm going to find the same words on the actual answer choice, but this is my thought process. And when I search for the main point, I'm going to try to align the answer choice that is present with this thought process. Each of you know what you had chosen. If you want to change your answer choice, you can do that now. I don't want you to post it here for your own understanding. Now we are going to quickly delve into the elimination. I have brought forward the main point that I have derived. Okay. In the antebellum period, different historians have focused differently. So this is one part. And this is one part. I'll see which choice is trying to bring this out. Because the author has been trying to draw our attention to this part. Draw our attention that women played an important role, but they were kind of short shrifted. So primary purpose of the passage as a whole. Now every primary purpose question will have two elements. So you can see that, right? One element is the purpose words. Examine is a purpose, establish is a purpose, present is a purpose, analyze is a purpose, and evaluate is a purpose. And you can ask yourself when you're going through the answer choice whether it's the correct purpose. Second is the content of the purpose. This part of the, this part is the content. So when you are analyzing an answer choice for main point, you have to analyze both these elements. So when I say the primary purpose of the passage as a whole is to examine, I have nothing against the word examine, honestly, because the author is reaching a conclusion, definitely, in this case. So I'll just see that whether the rest of it matches or not. The tactics of antebellum political parties. Okay, first of all, is the main purpose to examine the tactics of the political parties? No. One tactic has been mentioned, and that is inviting women to rallies. But the purpose is not to examine that. That is just an example. So A is out. The examine word is not a very good suit, but I really don't have too much of an idea. It's under consideration, but this is very, very limited in scope. And of course, I now on second thoughts, I think, okay, examine should also not be the answer. Why not? No in-depth details about anything has been given. One example. So I'm thinking, okay, A is out, and primarily because of this portion. Nobody chose A. Be established. I ask myself, is the author trying to prove anything? Because when you are trying to prove, you provide evidence, you prove somebody else is wrong. Okay. So is the author trying to establish or prove some truth? Not really. So establish was not the motive. Prove something was not the motive. If you're proving something, you would first give evidence and then you would reach the conclusions, stuff like that. Moreover, the author is definitely not trying to prove the effect of women's involvement. Where is the effect of women's involvement mentioned, guys? There's one small thing given about molding party loyal families. That's part of the example. There's one small thing given about conferring moral standing. Okay. But is it to prove that women had, ask yourself, is the author trying to prove that women had, women had an effect? Or is the author trying to prove that women played a role? Okay, so B is out. Most of you mark B. It's a distortion, guys. Let's come to C. Present is a very innocent word. Okay, present. Yeah, okay, I'll go with that for now. A deficiency in the study. First of all, I'll focus on the word deficiency. Is there a deficiency being presented in the passage? Well, there is a deficiency. Downplaying the role can be deficiency, right? So I'll say, okay, deficiency in the study of a particular historical period, yes, the antebellum period. So I'm going to hold on to this. Definitely the author is trying to point out this, right? He's trying to tell us this here also. In this paragraph also, remember what I concluded from this paragraph, that each of the fields focus on one part only and leave out the other part. They leave out the other part. They leave out the extent and significance of women's political. So leaving out, that is the focus of the passage. Okay. I think just one of you mentioned C. All of you have gone for B or D, but neither B nor D is the correct answer, because the focus is on pointing out what the historians of that field did not do. That's the focus of the two paragraphs. Okay. D, analyze. Again, no in-depth study anywhere, so analyze is wrong. The methodologies in two differing. Where is the methodology given, guys? You are told the source is separate, the focus is separate. Is that the methodology? Methodology is a lot, it talks about processes. This is not talking about processes. And again, that was only mentioned in the first para. So this is very, very limited in scope, and the confusing word is wrong. So B incorrect, D incorrect, the two contenders. The author is definitely not evaluating the historian's opinion. He's not trying to tell us the historian's opinion is strong or weak, or he's out and out blandly stating that their opinion is, they have underestimated it. Okay, so E is out. The correct answer is C. Absolutely. Any queries there, guys? I hope this is clear. Since we are so short on time, I would like to move on to the next part of this. Guys, just let me know a quick yes. And in the meantime, let me give you the link to schedule a free call with our experts if you so want to. I'll wait if you have. There's the link to set up a free call with our experts. Yes, guys, any queries from your end? If you have understood the passage, if you've liked the explanations, and if the process of deriving the main point is clear, please answer a yes so that I can move on to the next passage. Yes, guys? I don't see any queries as of now. Okay. I'm guessing things are clear to all of you. So let me move on to the... And now here's another question from the same passage, guys. And you will realize how you can answer this question correctly if you understood the main point correctly as well. Focus on the main point that is given there in blue. and answer this question. You have 1.5 minutes. Your time starts now. I'll mute myself in between. You can start posting your answers the moment you have got it, all right? All right, guys, start posting your answers, please. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me, guys? I cannot see any answers being posted, so I am a little worried whether you can hear me or not. Help me out here, guys. Okay, you can. Thank you so much. So I've got an answer E. How about the other answers, guys? Yes, all of you have read this passage. Thank you, Sashi, Shubham, Akanksha. How about the answers? Come on, guys. I guess you need a little more time. All right, I've got another answer. That's B. So that's an E and B. How about some more answers? Come on, guys. Okay, there's a C there. So B, C, and E. I guess this is turning out to be a little difficult. Okay, interesting. So I'm going to show you when I discuss this question how to divide the answer choice and read it properly. Often we don't read the answer choice properly. We rush through reading it and then we don't get the full meaning and we end up marking the wrong answer. All right. So I want to discuss that, how you should read your answer choice so that you don't get confused. All right. I don't see any more answers coming up, guys. It's already more than a couple of minutes over, and I still want to do one more passage with you. Thank you. I've got another answer, and this time it's another different one. That's D now. So I've got all choices now except for A. I have a B, I have a C, I have a D, I have an E. All right, cool. So I'm going to discuss the question now, guys. Thank you for answering, all of you, whoever have shared it with me. So here it's very important to read the question also properly. So the question is saying the author of the passage would be most likely to agree with which statement regarding most historians. Now, about most historians, the author has just said only one thing. By and large, these most historians have downplayed women's role in politics, right? They have downplayed women's role in politics, correct? So, which choice is talking about historians downplaying women's role? That is what we've got to look out for. Now, the they in each of these cases refers to who? These most historians. So, I have to read like this. Most historians have failed. Okay, does the author say they have failed? Failed, underestimating something and failing something. Failing is a very strong word to use instead of underestimating. So look how I'm going to divide my answers. They have failed. I don't think failed is the right word to use. Anyways, let's still go on. They have failed to contrast. No, he does not accuse historians of failing at drawing a contrast. That too about the differing roles that women played. So A is totally out. It's totally off the mark, and I can understand why none of you chose that. So B, C, D, E each have options. Each have options. Each of you have chosen different options. So let's see. They means the most historians have failed. Again, I would say failed is a strong word. To see that political propaganda. Now, this part is a modifier, advocating women's political involvement. So I'm going to rule this out. So the choice is, and see how I'm reading the choice, how I'm eliminating the modifiers, how I'm doing things. B says most historians have failed to see that political propaganda did not reflect the reality of women's actual roles. Here we are told the political propaganda was very clear. Okay? And the author is not saying that the historians have not seen the political propaganda. The historians have seen it. The historians have not drawn the right conclusion. So B is out. They have not failed to see the propaganda. They have failed to draw the right conclusion from the propaganda. They have incorrectly assumed. Okay, can I use incorrectly assumed for underestimate? Well, yes, when you underestimate something, you are in part wrong in your assumption or some part of it. So, what have they incorrectly assumed? That women's party loyalty. Okay, so they had underestimated women's political allegiance, women's political support, women's political party loyalty. Okay. They have incorrectly believed that women's party loyalty played a small role. Yes, if they have underestimated, then they have drawn a smaller understanding of the role that the women played in politics. So I would hold on to C. Women played a small role is their incorrect assumption? Yes. They have misinterpreted. 1 minute, guys. Thank you, guys. Just got a bout of coughing there. So let me continue. Misinterpretation is a wrong representation of the word underestimate. So I would say this is incorrect here. They have misinterpreted descriptions of women's involvement. They have not misinterpreted the description. 1 more minute, guys. Huh? Sorry. Thank you so much, guys, for that patient waiting. So all's good now. So as I was saying that misinterpretation is a wrong representation of underestimation. Moreover, these historians have not misinterpreted the description of women's involvement. All right. And have they misinterpreted women's involvement in records of female associations? Definitely not. They have overlooked, okay, I can kind of make peace with overlooked, as in, although overlooked is a strong word, okay. Overlooked means totally ignored, but we are saying they underestimated. So I'm like, they have acknowledged, but not to the extent they should have. Anyways, so I'm still okay with overlooked, although I'm putting a questioning mark here. The role that women's political activities played, yeah, definitely this is true. In women's rights involvement, no. The idea was in women's political involvement. So E is also out. Therefore, the correct answer is C. Guys, can you see where you might have gone wrong if you chose, E particularly? Because C and E were pretty close. Close and not close at the same time. So I hope that was an eye opener for you guys, all of you. Okay. What is important to know is reading speed is not very important. It's not more important than comprehension speed. People give more importance to this. This will come if this comes, not the other way around. And that can happen only through involved reading. As I've said, if you want more on this, go back to the recording of the previous webinars on YouTube, search for it and you'll get it. Here all we do is break sentences into small parts, understand the meaning, then we keep relating back to the previous sentences that we have read, we draw a para summary, and that is how we move towards identifying the intended meaning. So you see, we try to at GMAT Wiz, we try to build the right RC skills. We tell you where to pause, where to break. We tell you how to take care of, those words like allegiance and propaganda. We tell you to notice opinions and differentiate which is the author's opinion and somebody else's opinion. And therefore, finally, we help you understand the intention of the author. Okay. Just to build that skill, we have more than 10 hours dedicated to helping you build those skills, teaching you how to note small things like transition words and opinions and all of those small things. Okay, here's the second passage, guys. Some of you who were there in the last webinar might have seen this passage, although the question was totally different, and I'm sure you don't remember the passage all in all. So how much time should I give you for that passage? I have deliberately not put the main point there, guys. I want you to No, Gagan. The previous passage was also a 700 level passage. The passage that I have brought up is also a 700 level passage. Okay. It's not a 650 level passage. But 700, I would say, is far easier than 750 level passage. I hope you have liked the selection, guys. This particular passage and the question is also very, very interesting. I want you to give this a very fair shot. Use the involved and evolved reading method, guys. I promise you things will be easier for you. Again, the focus will be how to reach the main point rather than just answering the question. I want all of you to read these two paragraphs and identify the main point, in your own words in the chat. The moment you finish reading it, write down the main point the way you visualize it and post it in the chat box. Okay. So I'm going to give you 3 minutes to read that paragraph, those two paragraphs, 3 to 4 minutes, 4 minutes, so that so that you can also write down the main point summary. One line main point. Okay, guys, get started. 4 minutes. Your time starts now. If you have any other queries, go ahead and ask me in the chat box. And in the meantime, let me once again uh, post this free trial link here for all of you. Let me remind you, you're getting a 2-month subscription to the GMAT Wiz Verbal and Quant course with 10 marks for $129. Okay. Is it covering your passage? Okay, it is covering the passage. Okay, guys, your 4 minutes are going to be up. So I hope you're ready with your main idea summary and you can start posting it. I'm not going to call out your names and I'll stick to just reading out your summaries. Don't worry. So please feel free to post your summaries so that each of you can know if you're right and if you're not in the right direction. Yes, guys, waiting for you. So Gagan, Shashi, Shubham, Hassan, Akanksha. Um, then I've got Jishnu, Giridhar, Shubham, Gautam, Harsh, yeah, Rupal, N Shots, Abhiroop, Akib. So guys, yes, waiting for your one-line summary. In the meantime, there's the link for the free trial version of the course one. And also I'll post the link where you can schedule a free call with our strategy experts. Um, yes, guys, what happened? Haven't you got your summaries ready? I'm going to pose the question for this main point in a moment, but I want you to put out your summaries there, guys. Come on, help me out here, guys. Still waiting. Hmm. It seems everybody's a bit shy here, or perhaps the passage is difficult. Is that it, guys? Passage difficult? Okay, your comments on the passage. That should be easy enough to post. What are your comments on the passage? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Okay, here's the question. You can start putting in your answers the moment you have them. Okay, I have some answers A and C for now, but let's wait for a couple of more answers before we discuss the passage. Because you see, some of the main idea summary that you guys have posted are wonderful and they are absolutely correct as well. However, you know that how the correct answer choice portrays what you have written out, that may not be the same. And in this passage, we are going to see how that differs. You know, you have identified the main idea summary correctly. Now, the next step is that from the answer choices, you must also be able to choose the one that aligns with the way you have thought of the para summary, right? Okay, so it's now, it's still between A and C. Come on, guys, so many of you are there. I can see the numbers and I don't see the similar number of answer choices being posted here. It's lovely to interact with you, then only I feel alive. Okay, I don't see any more answers coming in. I guess there must be some delay of sorts. All right, so I'm taking it that most of you haven't been able to decide on the answers, but then the ones that I've got is between A and C. Yes, guys, some more answers would be good. I'll wait another. Okay, I guess that's about it. Fine. I'm going to start discussing now, guys. Now, the first paragraph, again, if we look at it, has really just 3 sentences. So you have one sentence from here till here. Then you have another sentence which begins from here and actually goes on for a long time till here. And within that sentence, you have this extra information provided here. And then finally, the last sentence which begins here and ends here. Okay, so again, because time is short and I'm not going to exactly follow the intended involved meaning approach, but that is how I'm deriving these understandings. From the first sentence, we get to know that the author is introducing the subject studied by Antonia Castaneda. She is examining 19th century portrayals of Mexican women, how Mexican women of the 19th century were portrayed in the literature of that time. So, literary portrayals of Mexican women. All right, that's the first sentence. And again, the first sentence should always be treated carefully. The second sentence, that long second sentence, tells you what Castaneda notes about the scholars of those times. Remember, she was studying scholarship from women's study. She was looking at the Mexican American history. So obviously, the writers of the Mexican American history and the writers of women's studies, Castaneda is telling us about them. She says that those scholars are making an observation about male novelists in the US of that time. These male novelists, the 19th century male novelists, they show women only in their domestic role of wife and mother. And a possible reason given is, at that time, there was a change in the agriculture based economy. It moved to the economy moved to a factory based economy, and that threatened women's traditional economic role. Okay, so the reason why women were only portrayed as domestic in the domestic roles of wife and mother could be that there was a shift in the kind of economy we saw at that point of time. Women's economic role took a beating. All right, and then the last sentence talks about how the non-Hispanic women were economically displaced. Now, if you don't know what is Hispanic and non-Hispanic, you'll have to be patient. Non-Hispanic women of that time were displaced, but the Hispanic law, okay, protected the economic position of Californianas, and they were the Mexican women, which means from this you should be able to infer that non-Hispanic is the other women, the non-Mexican women, and Hispanic is the Mexican women. All right, so here the author is telling you there is a difference between Mexican women in California, sorry, and non-Mexican women. And what is the difference? The Hispanic law protected the economic position of Californianas. So these Mexican women could inherit property, but then the same probably was not true of the non-Mexican women. So all in all, this para is summarizing about, Castaneda examining Mexican women of the 19th century, how they were portrayed in literature. So, how they were portrayed was the Mexican women were portrayed, that is not being stated in this paragraph, but this is telling us that Mexican women at that time were kind of, um, protected by law. The non-Mexican women weren't. So maybe the author is going to tell us about the portrayal in the next paragraph. All right, and then we move to the next paragraph. Again, the next paragraph, if you see, it's divided into one sentence here, another sentence starting here and ending here, and then shorter sentences, 4 sentences in all. First sentence is very important. For Castaneda, the laws. The laws refers to what? The Hispanic laws. The Hispanic laws explain a stereotypical plot. Now, since we were trying to understand Mexican women's portrayal, then we have to understand, okay, this is where she's talking about the portrayal, the typical plot. If you don't know what is stereotypical, you know what is typical. Stick to that. This typical plot created primarily by male non-Mexican novelists. So how did the non-Mexican novelist write about the Mexican women? We have an idea in the first paragraph, right? About all women, about all women, they wrote about them as in the role of domestic, domestic roles of wife and mother. So what did they write? Let's see. What was the plot these people created? They created the plot. This plot has your typical Bollywood plot. You have an ambitious non-Hispanic merchant, means ambitious non-Mexican man, wants to marry elite Californiana. Elite Californiana is the rich Mexican woman who is protected by the Hispanic law. Okay, so the first line is telling us about the typical plot. Fortune seeking, ambitious non Hispanic men want to marry rich Hispanic women. These novels' favorable portrayal of such women is noteworthy. Now, whenever you notice the author's opinion, always like sit up and notice it. So, here the author is saying the fact that these rich Californianas were portrayed favorably is capable of being noted. Why? Why? Why is explained here? Why is again explained later down the line. And if you read it properly, AC notes a contradiction. She notes that the novels show Californians in a good light, but the novels portray the common Mexicans, unflattering depiction of Mexicans, okay, and favorable portrayal of such women. That is the contradiction she notes, okay. And then she goes on to put the reason behind that contradiction. Since marriages with Californianas were economically important, hence the Californianas, the Mexican Californianas, needed to be shown in a favorable light. So this paragraph is telling us why writers typically portrayed Mexican women in California favorably. So all in all, remember the passage is talking about what? Let's now derive the para summaries. First paragraph is all about Castaneda examines how Mexican women of the 19th century were portrayed in the literature of that time. Okay. And that's the crux, the main idea. And here it's explaining why the non-Hispanic writers portrayed the rich Mexican women in California favorably. So from the first paragraph and the second paragraph put together, okay, the second paragraph, the first paragraph, look at this part, the Hispanic law and the laws explained. That's a connection. So the main point is to explain how and why rich Mexican women came to be portrayed favorably as compared to the other Mexican women. All right. And that is how, explain how and why the rich Mexican women in California came to be portrayed favorably. Okay. So using that, if I bring it forward, now remember, I need to find the answer choice which is most closely aligned to this. How and why rich Californianas came to be portrayed in a favorable manner. That's the primary purpose of the passage, to show why, how. All right. So let's see. Trace. And if I wait at trace, tracing is all about trying to identify the origin of something. So in this case, if the author is trying to trace means the how and why, I can still be okay with it. But tracing is usually about, periodical development of something that I don't see happening here. The author doesn't talk about different time frames. So I'm going to be a little skeptical about trace all in all. That's how I'm going to solve it. Historical influences on the depiction of Mexican Americans? Nah, it's definitely not about Mexican Americans. It is about Mexican American women. So A is totally out. It's a distortion. Instead of Mexican American women, we are saying Mexican Americans. Explain. Now, explain is a kind of, I would say, very normal word. How research in history has been affected by scholarship. No, this is a very, very general thing. It's got nothing about Mexican women. It's more about how research has been influenced by women's studies. Now, that's totally out of scope, I would say, right? See, describe. Okay, I'll hold on to that because the author does describe the plot. The author does describe how Mexican women were portrayed in that era. Describe the historical origin of a literary stereotype. Now, literary stereotype here would refer to this plot, right? And the plot was about the 19th century portrayals of Mexican women. So, is the author trying to describe how the Mexican women came to be typically portrayed? The how and why can be covered by the word origin. So I'm going to hold on to see. I'm not very convinced, but I'll hold on. See how how I'm trying to align. So how and why could be taken care of by origins. Okay. Um, Literary stereotyped. So this is the literary stereotype here. All right. And I'm going to hold on to it therefore. D. Discuss ways in which writers, is there any discussion about ways in which writers have sought to critique a dominant culture? This is absolute crap. Evaluate both sides in a scholarly debate. First of all, I'm thinking, is there an evaluation being done anywhere? Is the author deriving any conclusion? Well, the author is trying to derive the conclusion about the portrayal of Mexican women. However, where is the evaluation? Where is the pros and cons and advantage and disadvantage in both sides of the coin? The author is just telling us why the Mexican American women were portrayed in a favorable manner. That's it. So evaluate, I'm not so very high on that word. Both sides in a debate. Is there a debate anywhere in the passage, guys? Anywhere anybody is creating a debate? No. Is there a debate about what plot was used? No. There is no debate anywhere. So I'm going to go with C. That's how you will align your thought process, guys. Any questions here? Good. See, so most of you have gone with C. The others haven't posted their answers. But I hope those of you have gone with C. The particular way of deriving the main point helped you. I hope it helped you, Hassan, Shubham, Akanksha. Do let me know if it did help you because that would be great. That feedback from you would be great. And guys, those of you who have been attending the webinar, I hope you follow this method of deriving the main point. Okay. If you are following any other way, if you're looking at any other way of deriving the main point, you'll find it's going to be really tough. This question we already discussed in the previous session. So I don't think, how many of y'all were there in the session? I'm not so sure. Some of you were there, I guess, but those of you who were not there, give this question a shot. Can you, I'll point out the area from which this is taken. Just give me a moment. Just a moment, let me change a couple of things here. And then I'm just going to make it ready for you to solve. All right, let me quickly go back. So here's the portion from which this question is taken. Try and answer it, guys. Go ahead. I'm going to mute myself in the meantime. All right, guys, I've got some answers already. So, anybody else? Quickly. So far, I've just got D as a possible answer. Come on, guys. This should be a piece of cake after, and I actually segregated the portion from where the answer is taken. So, it should not be difficult for you at all. Come on. Okay. All right. Looks like okay. So let me discuss this question quickly with you guys. The question is the apparent contradiction mentioned in the particular line. It refers to different discrepancy means the difference between. So I've got to identify the differences between which two entities, right? Which two entities? So we know that the contradiction, if you refer to this portion, right? The author says there is a favorable portrayal of such women referring to the Californianas, okay, and unflattering literary depiction of Mexicans. So Mexicans in general, and that was because here it's given that because of they're referring to the Californianas. Californianas were portrayed more favorably than were others of the same nationality. This line, okay, would tell you the answer. All right. So let's see. Was the discrepancy between legal status of Mexican women versus their status in US? No. A is out. Sorry. So entity A is legal status of Mexican women, entity B is their status in US. Makes no sense. B, unflattering depiction of Mexicans in novels. Yes, this is correct. Versus the actual public sentiment. No, that's not the contradiction. The contradiction is between Mexicans in novels and Mexican women in novels, rich Mexican women in novels. So B comes close, but it's not the answer. Existence of many marriages between Californianas and non-Hispanic merchants. No, that's totally crap. Literary depiction of elite Californianas. Okay, so this part is fine. Versus literary depiction of other Mexican individuals. Absolutely. Novelistic portrayals. So I would say D is correct. Novelistic portrayals of the elite Californianas' privileged lives. Where was this given? Portrayal of their privileged lives was not there. Actual circumstance of those lives, not there anywhere. So E is also out. The ones who did answer that did get it right. It was absolutely D. And I hope, guys, you have really benefited from the session. You can connect with us. I've already provided you with, I'll just do that once again, guys. So give me a moment. And just reminding all of you once again that we have launched this new shorter duration subscription. Although the duration is shorter, there is no shortening or reduction in the courseware. You are getting access to the full course for a period of 2 months, guys. All right. Access to the quant as well as the verbal course with 10 marks thrown in for $129. You can check it out on our website, more details. There's a link to the free trial version, the link to schedule a free call with our experts. You can also write to us at support@gmatquiz.com or connect with us over that WhatsApp number. If you have any queries, guys, I'm there for the next couple of minutes. And thank you all so much for being interactive, for helping me proceed with this webinar, guys. I hope all of you benefit from today's webinar. Any queries, guys? Remember, the understanding of the passage is the beginning of doing your or getting your questions correct. So don't rush through passages. Read them properly. Don't move to sentence 2 if you haven't understood sentence 1. Welcome, Shubham. Thank you so much, Akanksha. Most welcome. Thank you, all of you. You guys have been amazing. I couldn't have done the session without your help. Any queries about your preparation or anything if you want to know, guys? There for a minute, another minute. Okay, I don't see any more queries. So thank you very much, guys. Have a good day if you're just beginning your day, and a good night if you have accomplished a fruitful day. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. All the best for your preparation.